Good morning. Today I'm going to do my professional reading Part B response on Chapter 10 from the Anthology of Social Studies, Issues and Strategies for Secondary Teachers by Roland Case and Penny Clark. Chapter 10 was written by Camila Bahabahani and Roland Case. I believe this chapter is really helpful for teachers that are teaching geography in either a social studies 7 to 9 curriculum, or even geography 10, or even geography world geography 12. This as a upcoming teacher, I believe this chapter really revamps the whole idea of geography, and not only it shouldn't just be around all of talking about maps or coloring maps or talking about cities and capitals and stuff like that, but bringing more in depth all the resources that you have available, especially with all the current events that have happened in the last couple of years, especially with climate. Talking about natural disasters and extreme disasters, and how perhaps with poverty or inequality in certain countries, how they differentiate between, let's say, Canada and Ghana in Africa, for example. So these are just things that you can bring in your classroom, and I believe that using the newspaper or any type of journal as a resource inside in one of the geography classes is really useful for students, because it keeps them up to date with current events, and it keeps them knowledgeable of what's happening in the world, how different events could connect together. How could we change as individuals inside a 21st in the 21st century world? How do we change to make the climate, maybe change climate to a positive instead of a negative? How can we benefit from the oil sands up in Alberta, and how the economy has switched in the last couple of years, and look at all of these different types. These are just a couple of circumstances that you can bring inside your classroom. Some of the things I really enjoy about this piece of or this chapter is they talk about a lot of critical inquiry, and how you can let your students have the responsibility of maybe picking a country, for example, and then go explore in that country, a country that may be unknown to them, or just don't have that much information about that one country, and so they can go really in depth and research and get to know the country better, and then maybe present it, have a learning center for as a class, or even have one of the UN council type of activities. So these are just things you could think of. One other thing I did believe was really useful was the use of natural disasters. So how do you respond to talking about natural disasters? So one thing I really appreciated was the talk about tsunami, and how there's 4 different scenarios you can go more in depth with your students. So talking about like the investment by government, local government, or different countries, government from different countries, and how they help support, or or non what's what I'm looking for, international agencies to help with raising money for these individuals who were affected by tsunami. Talk about the development of tsunami alert systems in the region. How could that maybe benefit the region in the future, or how could that benefited at that time? Also talk about the relocation of affected populations to new areas. So how these new areas how is this new areas being affected by all these people now moving from that disaster-torn region and moving into this this area? How has it maybe affected their economy? How has it affected maybe the diversity of the area? Has it had an positive impact, or has it had a negative impact? So these are things that as teachers we should really focus on, especially in the geography curriculums. Having a sense of being creative when you write about, or you teach about the geography. So example, latitude, longitude, you can use GPS units outside, changed environment of your classroom. You know, not always have to be sitting down at a desk listening to a teacher lecture for an hour each day. You can go outside and have fun, enjoy yourself, be creative, have those cooperative learning strategies useful, and have in hand. Use different types of resources or imagery, maps, journals, articles. These are just some of the examples, so there's definitely a lot more that could be said. One way that I believe this chapter really affects the way I learn or I teach is the whole notion of inquiry learning, cooperative learning, getting your students really involved, not just them sitting there and listen to you talk for hours and hours. This is our opportunity as a teacher to give more focus on our students, more responsibility to our students, to get them to learn at their own pace, or maybe learn in a variety of different ways. Not always have to be technology use. It could be used by reading articles or depicting imagery and how this may represent a certain event. One way I think would obviously benefit my students would be, they get to have that social aspect in the classroom, not just, yes, there'll be sometimes we have to do individual work, but having that social aspect of them getting to talk and interact with their students or their peers. And to me, I feel like that's the main importance, not just in geography, but in all social studies, in all subjects. That should be a really key piece to strategy, teaching strategy, that I believe any teacher nowadays, but basically all 21st century. We're in 21st century, so why not use all these resources and strategies that we have and can use them. So that's all I have to say today. So like I said, chapter 10 from the Anthology of Social Studies, and that's Zach.